occurs when the final payment of 2011 received under the last bill was $52,000 short for Houston County. Because this shortage was not corrected, the 2012 allocation was reduced by that 5%, so 95% of the 2011 amount. And then that amount was forwarded to Houston County for this year. So we're at $103,000 short on allocations that are continuing to be dropped every year anyway. When I contacted the Controller's Office, Treasury and Accounting Division, Mike Marino, he's been there probably 20 years and knows a lot about it, basically said he had no information, they send him the money and he sends it out. So at the state level, it's beyond the state level. The amount received in 2008 prior to any reductions for the 100 years that they originally gave us this funds was $840,000 to Houston County to be split between the county and all the public schools. Since then, the reduction has been over 50%, and we're looking at a 0% this year. We have to go back to Washington and fight for any allocation again. Each year, these lands continue to be part of the National Forest, but less and less funds have been returned to the county. I personally know there is still production on those lands. I have a friend of mine who went to high school, and they have to work around the birds' mating season and time of day, and they can only do certain areas, but there's still production that comes off of that land. We only got 25% of it to begin with. So I think that's a question, Will and I talked about this before, what happened to the rest of it? There's got to be something, and now we're gonna get 0. And I bring this up because I talked about this last year, when preparing for the upcoming 2014 budget. We're always looking ahead. We've talked about a 5-year plan, and counties don't really operate like that. We're year to year. But please note that this shortage has to come from 3 sources. That's all you have to operate with. From funds in the bank, fund balance, from cutting in services, or raising taxes. That's your only options. And as a reminder, this last bill that we just received the funds for was only approved for 1 year, not a 4-year or 11-year or 100-year, for 1 year. So we have to fight at the federal level. And I think it's been 3 years since the federal budget has been adopted. I'm not sure, but it is what it is. And to bring it down to the county level, we can't write a single check unless your budget is adopted. But at the federal level, you can, because there's so many constraints. But I rewrote this letter 100 times, but I did want to point out where you can, this is a lot of information, I know, but as you can see in fiscal year 2010, our allocation amount was the 721. That includes Title 1, 2, and 3. Title 1 is the part that's split between the schools and the counties. That's 85%. 15%, either we have to designate those funds and put them and fix roads, correct me on this, you're on the forest stuff, that's dedicated to roads within the forest, or we have to say, here state, mix our 15% with others' 15% so that we can do a big project. We've done that multiple times. The Big Slough, all of those big projects that have come back to help us in the end. So we have gotten the RAC, they call it the RAC funding, to help that. But I don't know, I can't get an answer on the original 50,000 that was shorted in the next year, but now it's caused a domino effect into this year. And then there's a lot of issues because we don't have over in Oregon, there's bigger states that have more federal lands. We're just a little fish. But it impacts us so much because Houston County gets the most of these monies in the whole state of Texas.
Yeah. Before they put all of this land into the red-headed cockeyed
Yes.
woodpecker,
Yes.
the county got as much as $2 million.
Yes.
I mean, they would cut salvage timber all over the forest, the national forest. And the county got lots of money. But since this endangered species took over, it's cut us back to
Yes.
the degree.
And it fluctuates so much. But what you were talking about, it is coming back to landowners now. But where are those the production of what the land that is here going to? Where is that going?
Well,
We
the
don't
other
know.
penalty, the other penalty on this too is that out of a county that's 1,200 square miles. I just did some calculations on 90,000 acre forest, that's 140 square miles that's completely unavailable to us. As a
That's right.
county, we're actually a smaller county than we list because we can't, there's limited production for it. So 12% of our county is idle right now by federal land.
Look what we could draw if we was drawing taxes, that's what that,
That's, yeah, exactly, so.
we
And
have plenty of money.
also on here, just to bring it down to the school district level, I listed the allocations that each of the school districts lead. So it's not just Houston County, it's each individual school board that is fighting this too. You see, we have Groveton ISD in here and Elkhart ISD, which is not in the county, but a piece of their school district does go into the forest, that's why they get a portion of this. So they also get money from Trinity County as well. But as you can see, it's gone down and down and down. That's your teachers right there. And so it's affecting them as well. So, anyway, maybe you can,
Yeah, we'll
fight
get a
for-
resolution. Starting.
something.
Now, each year we have the option of choosing whether to accept the funds in lieu of production. We also have an option that we can choose, so I'm taking for granted that if these funds are cut out by the federal government, that we can still get the production money, which one year I think was $100,000. It won't be nearly as much, but that will be an option. The problem is, if they try to put the forest back to work today, there's no market for the timber.
That's what's hurting us
The
right now.
mills are only open 2 to 3 days a week, so if you start in there now cutting timber again, the U.S. has lost its marketing for timber.
Right.
uh,
There's a
for
lot
whatever
of
reasons,
Yeah.
import. So we're kind of bad situation. I mean, you have people working for the Forest Service, basically just maintaining a huge 90,000 acre park
Right. That's right.
and drawing full benefits, retirements, all those sort of things for, and what they do.
And scheduling burns to get rid of these
That's about it.
trees that,
If you talk about putting the land on the market, who's gonna buy it? They can't actually use the timber to pay for the land.
right, right.
So the federal government has just basically shot us in the foot on that for probably my lifetime.
Mhm. But that's just what we're facing next year's budget. So.
Thank you, Ms.
Mhm.
Item number 12 is discuss and consider approving a contract and proposed budget with the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services to be reimbursed through Title 40 funding for legal services and foster care expenses for the children. You know, something I found out, being a new member to the Child Welfare Board, did you know and Tim, if this isn't correct, over 50 children have been placed outside our county in foster care. 50 children in our county. That is it's just phenomenal. It's incredible. But Tim, were you going to speak on this? Or,
Actually not, I think probably Ms. Mosley could explain it better, what we're seeing. And as you know, I just speak from the floor here, but you know, we have an increase in children that are being removed from our county. And I mentioned before in the board, we need to do something, if CPS is involved in anybody in this county, it's usually a negative involvement because it's not positive. And we forget that there's a positive side of it that we have a responsibility for. And that is to take care of these children. Sad we don't have any foster families that are designated in this county specifically for that. We do take care of those children in other counties. And I think it's more of a public relations. And if we can get this Title IV reimbursement back, that is, I believe it's a federal, isn't it, a state, then we need to tap into that resource and do more to support CPS and also our children, which are, like I said, they're a commodity that we're overlooking.
Judge, I can say a little as to the legal services, the part A of that.
Mhm.
That would be reimbursing the county for essentially stuff that we're already doing. It's not adding any obligations, it's reimbursing for what I do, for what Norma does, and our office does representing CPS, provides reimbursement for trainings that we go through related to CPS, and the budget we have anticipated, and of course it varies based on how much of my time, Norma's time, and the rest of the office spends on these cases, but it's anticipated to be about $5,500 back to the county for work we're already doing. The only thing in addition would be a little bit of extra timekeeping and a little bit of extra work on Melissa's part to make sure paperwork, but that would be the only obligation to the county, besides, of course, continuing to pay what we've already been paying for that being done. And that's what that legal services contract is. Just as to support what Tim was saying, we have twice as many removals last year than we did the year before. We have a lot more kids in care. And if anyone knows anyone who wants to be a foster parent, we'd love that.
Thank you. I have in front of me the contract for approval. Do I have a motion to approve? All in favor of approving this contract, signify. All opposed? Motion carries. And you will sign this.
And Judge, I believe you have 3 copies there of that to sign, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Today's
Right, and Judge, that's only as to the legal, and that's not the child welfare board. I believe that Joy is going to help them get something similar to the legal one drafted.
Do you need this back, or this is go to Bridget?
I need
Amber.
one set if I could pay for it.
Yes, Judge, there's one for me, one for Julia, and one for the court.